guiding principles in the actions we're about to take this evening? Are we raising the bar in all of our actions? Are we honoring the past but not living in the past? Are we building positive connections with our community and outside partners? And is the decision-making process building a diverse, equitable, and inclusive community? Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. We have a published agenda. Are there any proposed amendments? Mr. Morrissey?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I propose we pull item 4H off of consent and move it to business item 8F.
Second that.
Okay, we have motion by Councilmember Morrissey, second by Councilmember Fenton to move consent item H to business item F. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the consent item has been moved to business. Any other proposed amendments? Is there a motion? Go ahead, Councilmember.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Morrissey, a second by Councilmember Terneri to approve the agenda as it's been amended. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? We have the agenda set for this evening. We're at our first citizen comment period. Is anyone wishing to address the council at this time? Anyone online wishing to address the council, use the raise your hand feature and the clerk will bring you into the meeting. And we've tested our equipment and we know that it works this time. Having technical difficulties last meeting. And I'll close the first citizen comment period. We have a published consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Diener, second by Councilmember Fenton to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
Mayor,
Yes.
point of order. I believe it would be the consent agenda as amended.
You are correct. I saw that. Yes, as amended, that is correct. Thank you, sir, for that correction. So we, motion and this, does the motion maker and the second concur?
Yes.
All right. You'll be voting to approve the consent agenda as amended. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Aye.
Hearing none, the consent agenda has passed. We're moving right along here. We're to our presentation. We've got Jim Rothland and James Weaver from the Port of Bremerton. They're here to dazzle us with all the wonderful things going on at the Port of Bremerton.
Good evening, everybody. You can bring you up. So, I'm Jim Rothland. I'm the CEO of the Port of Bremerton. I did bring our Marina Director, James Weaver, for two reasons. Tomorrow's his last day, so I'm going to squeeze every hour out of him that I can. So.
Yay.
And also, of course, a lot of the stuff that are happening here at Port Orchard. James is going to have the details to kind of help you get through it. So, I'm looking over here. And do I have a clicker or you're? Okay. So just kind of want to start with the mission of the port. A lot of people don't really know exactly what we do. And in a nutshell, it's about increasing the economic opportunity for all of Kitsap County by generating jobs, developing infrastructure, and improving the local quality of life. So, primarily, we're trying to help the economy here, but we're also looking at improving the local quality of life, which, I've been at this port for about 10 years, and probably more than any other port. Port of Bremerton spends a lot of time and energy on that, and because this is a great place to be. And so it's really important that no matter what we're doing, as we're developing, as we're growing, we want to make sure we maintain that. These are three of the commissioners, Gary Anderson, who's part of this district, Kerry Bozeman, and Axel Streicheljohn. Three people who are very experienced in their own areas of expertise and have a lot of great ideas, a lot of support, a lot of good vision. So they're primarily, like most commissions, their job is to help set strategy, to help set the vision, to help approve the budget, and then as we move forward, they approve things as they go. And of course, they hire me as the CEO, and my job is to run the port, based on their vision, based on their budget, and we really have what I would call 3 lines of business. We look at the marina, which includes our marinas, our breakwaters, our piers, our boat launches, our parks, and then another division is the airport and then the industrial park. So I'll kind of break it down in those 3 as we move forward. Before I do that, as I talk about their goals and their mission on economic development, this was a study that was done about 6 years ago to just kind of see what impact does the port actually have on this local community. So can't quite read it from here, but I know in Kitsap County alone, there's about $1.2 billion in sales that happen from tenants of the port. So it's a pretty big number, about 5,400 or something like that jobs. About half of them are direct jobs within the port. So there's really some great things that have been happening there. And we're doing a new economic impact study this year, so we'll see what those numbers look like. Just some background, we were voted in as the Washington Port Association Job Creator of the Year. You can see the increases that were being done in those 5 or 6 years, and where we doubled the number of tenants in the industrial park and almost tripled the number of jobs there. And that really comes from, you know, the economy is doing this all the time, and our job is to make sure we're ready for it. So when things are slow, we're not waiting, we're building, we're putting in infrastructure, because when people want to move, they don't want to wait for all the permits and everything to get in place. They need to move. So, you know, all they need is the final building permit to go. So it really has helped make that successful. And then in 2023, at the end of 2023, we were voted in the Washington Port Association Port of the Year. So that's quite an honor. There's, you know, 47 ports out there. And so to win that honor, it's not just jobs, but it's all the creative things that we're doing. So the commissioners should be proud of that. So that's kind of their report card. Okay, so I'll start talking about the marinas and start at Bremerton. Bremerton has about 320 slips. 220 are permanent moorage, meaning we rent those month to month, and then we leave 100 as guest moorage so that people can come and visit on the weekends and things like that. That was done in about 2008 when it was built, the new marina, and when they started, they were about 40% capacity. About 10 years ago, we went on this marketing terror where we were going to boat shows and saying, you rent here for a year, we'll give you another year free. And the purpose was people did not know about this area. We thought if we can just get them here and they like it, they're more than likely going to stay. And that paid off. We're now in the summertime close to 90% capacity at most times. Some of the development that we've done there recently or in the last several years, this was the parking lot that the port purchased when they bought that marina because they needed parking for the marina. The big issue for me was really to have land that's waterfront property that's parking only. So we spent many years trying to find the right developer, and we really hit on one. These people have done things throughout the United States, but they're from Bremerton, that's their home. So it was important to them not just to build something that was gonna make them a lot of money, but also something that was gonna help their community. So it kind of went from this picture here, and then the next picture kind of shows their development of what they did. So this was about a $200 million investment. There's about 275 apartments in there. They're now starting to use some of them as hotels. Down below is retail and office space. In fact, some of them have the office is the front door, and then you go behind the office, and there's actually an apartment behind there. So it's done really well. They've got a store in there right now, like a little grocery store. They're putting in a restaurant to be coming soon. And you can see how it's split, so it really invites everybody to the waterfront. Okay. And then one of the reasons that we bought that was for parking, so it was important that we kept that parking. So in part of the sale of the property, we turned around and bought 75 of the parking stalls. There's 385 stalls in total, but 75 are still dedicated to the marina boaters, so it was a real win-win. Another thing that happens a few years back, the American Cruise Lines came in, and this was kind of an interesting story. These cruise lines tour about 11 different locations in Puget Sound. We were not one of them when they started. Olympia was, and they went to Olympia to tie up, and there's union workers there that wanted to tie the boat, and the cruise line says, no, we need to do it. The union people says, you're not doing it. James gets a call and says, can we come to Bremerton? And we said, certainly. So they came here and they did 8 stops that year, and I think now they're at 40-plus stops here. And so they continue to grow. It's a great partnership. They come in, it's, you know, anywhere from 80 passengers to 120 passengers. They stay for 24 hours, and these people have, most of them are not from Washington State. They're from all over the place. They've never been to the Pacific Northwest. So they stay here, they see the Turner Joy, they come across on the foot ferry and come over here on this side. I know they take a tour to that bonsai nursery, and they have different tours set up to kind of make it happen. So it's been a real success story for us. Okay, Port Orchard Marina, a little bit bigger. It's 441 slips, but the same thing, 341 are permanent moorage, and then about 100 are guest moorage. This one's always been easier to fill. Number one, you've got covered moorage, which is a long waiting list of people that we couldn't do at Bremerton. Number two, the tide that comes in and out of here is a little bit easier for people to come in and out, so it's been pretty easy to fill most of the time. Our biggest project is that big blue breakwater around the Port Orchard Marina. That's about 1,500 linear feet. It's about a $16 million project to do. Typically, they tell you breakwaters have a 25 to 30-year lifespan, and I think we're hitting 50 right now with this thing. So with maintenance and repair as much as we could, we were keeping it together as we were trying to find the funding for it. We've always said we're one big storm from losing that breakwater, and it's not a good thing because you lose the breakwater, then you're shutting down your marina, and that marina brings in about $16 million to the Port Orchard community, just in the people that are there and the jobs that it brings in. So it's really important to us, but also important to the community. So we finally, last year, found a way to get the money. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. It would, like I say, $16 million. We've gotten about $9.5 million from the federal grant, and then the state kicked in another $5 million. Kitsap Transit is making a promise to do $1 million, and then the rest is the port. So luckily this thing has become affordable, and we're moving forward on the project. You'll start seeing some movement on this the beginning of next year at some point, and it'll take about a year between fish windows to get that done. So the great part was this was part of a federal RAISE grant, and at about the same time, the people were doing a tour in the Northwest of all the places that they had given these grants, and they decided Port Orchard was where they were going to do their media event. So we had the ribbon cutting, we had all these people here. Buttigieg was the transportation president or director, and then we had Kilmer here, Cantwell, Murray, everybody was here, the tribe, and so it was kind of a nice kickoff event. Another project, we called it Bay Street Remediation Project. We agreed to purchase this from a private person, and we knew the problems were going to be, this used to be a gas station there, and so there was going to be some fuel issues. We didn't know exactly to what extent, but the nice part about ports is we can get funding for these kind of things where private sector couldn't. This guy was never going to be able to sell this to private sector. It's you know, what's the total we're putting into this?
1.8.
Yeah, well, that's just the environmental part?
That's environmental and remediation.
Okay, so yeah, so $1.8 million in remediation to this. It includes digging out the tanks, testing the soils, digging things out, working with ecology, testing the soils. We'll be doing that for a while to make sure that the soils get to where they are. So it'll kind of stay as it is for 2 to 3 years while we do the testing. We're going to use it as a laydown place when they start putting in the breakwater. We may use it for some parking if that works, just temporary parking. And then from there, we had a retreat last week, and we have no set decisions on what's going to happen, but we're seeing what's happening to the left and the right of us, and we just want to be a part of it. So we'll kind of see when it gets to that point what's the highest and best use for the community.
Jim, are you guys at least able to fill the hole in that's there, or do you need that hole open to do your testing?
Yeah, that gets filled soon.
It'll be done by October.
There we go.
All right, wonderful, thank you.
Then the farmer's market, that's been around for a little while, but of course this time we have now have the responsibility of making sure the parking and it all works, and we're glad we're finding a way to make it work. Of course, with construction and everything, that was probably the biggest challenge, was just finding parking. But that market has just gotten better and better, and we'd love to make it larger, but we just can't do that yet and keep the parking that we need. But it's been very successful. They threw some numbers at us last year, if you want to go to the next slide. And just showed from to 24, you know, the significant increases they did in vendor sales and in attendance and things like that. And it's one of the, even from our perspective, when it comes to boaters coming to here and where we make our most revenue on visiting boaters, Blackberry Festival, what's the other one?
Bridge Blast.
Yeah, Bridge Blast, and this farmer's market is right in there with it, with the value that we're getting out of it, so it's been good. And just finally, you know, one of the things as we have these marinas, the tough part is how do you keep people here? And it's all about giving them things to do. And so our staff at the marinas are involved in about 55 different events throughout the year where we're either participating in or we're actually running ourselves. So that takes up a lot of their time, besides the maintenance. You know, as water moves, everything breaks, and so they spend a lot of time doing that. But this is a big piece of it, and it's great not just for the boaters, of course, but for the entire waterfront community. So now I'll move on to the airport. So this airport, it's about a 6,000-foot runway. It can land up to about a 737, and we get them once in a while, mostly military. It has the ability to expand to 7,200 feet, but that's something that is FAA regulated. They would only do it if we had specific reason to make it happen, and right now we don't have that reason. So at 6,000, it works pretty well. There are about 164 hangars there. Most of them are general aviation. We've got 10 corporate hangars that are in there, and we have about 181 aircraft that are there. But there's about 64,000 operations that happen in a year. So an operation is either a landing or a takeoff. So if someone lands and take off, that's 2 operations. So fairly busy airport, and I'll talk more about our plans for this in the future. But also, this just kind of shows the investment that these airports, they're not cheap. So in the last 10 years, there's been $20 million invested in this thing of all the things we have to do and maintain. The good news is 90% of that gets funded through the FAA, and then another 5% is through the state, through their transportation program. So the port, as they're getting $20 million, you know, increase in their assets, they're spending about $100,000 to do it, so it's a pretty good leverage of our funding. A couple of the projects that we're doing, this is the South Hangar project. We're completely full at hangars. We've got a little spot there that we can add more. It's going to be 3 corporate hangars and 20 general aviation hangars. You go to the next slide, it kind of shows a compilation. So that's what it kind of looks like. The bigger ones, of course, are the corporate hangars. You know, we don't have resources to do all that. We just can't fund these things, but we focus on the infrastructure, and then we look for private sector to help us out. So we've put the infrastructure in, and we now have leases for all 3 corporate hangars where they're gonna build their own hangar, and then they'll lease the land from us. And then once we get that done, we're currently working with another private developer to do the same thing with the general aviation hangars, where we'll put as much infrastructure as we can in, we'll work with them, and then it'll be his job to find people to put in the hangars. Just another shot of it. This is Airport Industrial Way. So this is about a 4-mile road. It basically connects Highway 3 from one spot and then reconnects at another, so it makes a nice thoroughfare there, and it also opens up about 1,500 acres of industrial land for development. We're currently at the end of that green, that little circle part of the green there is a roundabout, and that's where we're at now. That's about 2 miles of it, and we're starting to work on the pink part right now to get that done. So what we're doing now is just trying to develop the land in the orange and the green stages. So here's one of the developments that we're looking at. It's called Sky Park, and it's 21 acres. It's designed for 2 50,000 square foot buildings and 2 20,000 square foot buildings. It'll be the first buildings that we have where people can have businesses, manufacturing, whatever they're gonna do, but have direct access to the taxiway and to the hangars. We don't have anything like that yet, and so we're hoping to make that happen. So we are working with a private developer now who's doing kind of a feasibility study to figure out and determine what it's going to take for him to get this done. So he's got it for a year to determine if he wants to build this out or not. That's just a picture of rendition of what it would look like. Of course, then Amazon built up on there. This is a last mile distribution center. It's about 120,000 square feet. Basically, I don't know if you're aware of it, but what they do at night, they bring semis in, they load that thing, and then during the day, the vans come in, they unload half of that building and deliver, and then they come in the afternoon, unload half of it, and then deliver the rest. One of the few distribution centers that we'll see out here, because when you're not on I-5 corridor, that's not really something people are looking for, but getting Amazon out here brought a lot of attention for other people, so that was really good, and they're employing 250 people as well. Radiant Aerospace is another company that's out there. They're a next generation aerospace vehicle. It's a reusable horizontal takeoff and landing that delivers people and light cargo to multiple destinations. So that's eventually what it's going to look like. These are ex-Boeing people who are developing this. Right now they're doing the rocket testing here, and the goal is that hopefully they do the manufacturing here. That's what we would really like to see. Typically they do this in the desert somewhere, but they think they might be able to make it here. So. And then the airport diner, most of you have probably been there at one time or another. It was just getting too expensive to maintain, so we had to take it down, and there was just a desire to try and bring something back, so we had to work with FAA, because if you work with the FAA, if it's not building something that's flying a plane of some kind, they don't really want it there. So we did some tricky negotiations and then put what we called a multi-purpose facility. See on the next page here. So this is the Bremerton Airport restaurant called Amelia's Hangar. If you do the next slide, you'll see the back end. And so this is, we call it a multi-purpose facility. It has a hangar in there. You'll see the green doors there. Has office space, it has pilot's lounge, and then it has plane charging stations. And that restaurant could technically be turned into a hangar if there was a need for it. So we were able to use that as a way to get that put back in. So they're having pretty good success right now, and the charging station is one of the first ones almost any airport has put in. We went underneath the restaurant before it got built. And then we've got a group who's be planning on using that soon. I think that might be the next slide. Yes, Bremerton Aviation Center for Education. So this is a group that introduces aviation primarily to the youth. It's got a flight simulator. They do seminars on flying. They do engineering. They're currently in the process of constructing an airplane called a Xenos electronic motor glider. And they're doing all the cutting, the drilling, the riveting, everything necessary to take these thousands of pieces and turn it into a plane. They've actually got the first one built. You go to the next slide, I think it shows them working on it. And this was such a great idea that people started, and it was at first about 5 or 6 kids. And it has, now I think there's 45 kids in there right now, and they've finished building this plane. They're going to do another one. It's one of the few ways where any kids can even get introduced to airports and what they do. And you don't just have to be a pilot. You can do so many other things there, and this has really been pretty beneficial. We help with these guys put scholarships together to do their pilot's license and things like that. So I think the next one, yeah, so that's a picture of the Xenos motor glider. It's completed. They're now getting it. You have to go to get it qualified through the FAA, so they had to take it somewhere to do some things, maybe test flights or whatever, but they're going to have their first official flight coming up soon. Bremerton Air Show, I don't know if you guys had a chance to come out there. This is something we started 3 years ago. We haven't done this for probably 30 years prior. We just found somebody who wants to do this and is good at it, and it's just been real successful the last 3 years. The first year we had 2,500 people. Last year we had about 9,000, and we think we could have got more, but the weather was really hot, and it just deterred a lot of people from coming. But our job is just to really help coordinate the parking and some of the administrative things, but they have like 30 or 40 vendors there. It's really a fun event, and if you're interested next year, I can happily get you tickets to come. On Friday, they do a media day, and they kind of do their practice rounds to kind of see it, and then the show is Saturday and Sunday. And then finally, the airport feasibility study, which I'm sure you've been listening about. So when I came on here, I think it was 11 years ago, and I always heard people say, you should have be able to fly out of here. And I've had other people say, the last thing we want is another SeaTac, in my neighborhood, because I lived at SeaTac and it was horrible. So I really understood both points, and I never really knew whether it made sense or not. And then when SeaTac was looking to expand, They had come to us, and we didn't really say much. We just said, yeah, you can look at it. I don't think it was any desire to be a SeaTac 2.0. And then I did a tour of Payne Field. I don't know if you've had a chance to go there, but when I saw that, I thought, it was the first time I thought, that's something I think this community could live with. It's just easy. It's 2 gates, 6 to 10 flights a day, non-intrusive. Parking, you can get in and out of there. You check in like you're checking in through somebody's living room. It really was kind of a neat little thing that possibly could work here. So we decided, let's just find out what we can do. So phase 1 of the study was first to find out, do we have the demographics? If you look throughout the Olympic Peninsula, but also there's lots of Tacoma that would be much rather being flying out of here than SeaTac trying to get there or not. So do we have the demographics? And the answer was yes. And then the other part was, what's the community feel about it? And what we kind of got was, they either said, I love the idea as long as this doesn't happen, or I hate the idea unless you can promise me this doesn't happen. And they were all kind of saying the same thing, and it was really about traffic, it was about noise, and it was about, I don't want to be taxed more money for this airport. And so we took that to heart, and so phase 2 is really to kind of go into that part. We will be soon traveling to events. It's really interesting how you get airlines here. You go to this like speed dating conference, and you're in front of people, and we've got people way smarter than us walking us through this and have the contacts just to find out who's interested, who might do what. It'd be more regional, maybe hubs like San Francisco or LA, but also destinations like Vegas, Palm Springs, Arizona. That's kind of the idea, but it just depends on what the appetite is, and that's what we'll find out. Once we know that, we'll know the flight patterns, we'll know the traffic conditions and what that might do. But my guess is, we have jets that fly in there almost every day. People just don't know because the flight pattern does not go over them. The general aviation planes do, and the helicopters do, but typically these jets don't. So I don't know if that's going to be a problem. And then the traffic is really minimal if you're doing 10 flights a day with, planes that probably fill 100 people. But I don't know for sure. We'll see what happens, what's said there. So now I'll talk a little bit about the industrial park. This industrial park is on both sides. You see the highway that kind of splits it. If you're looking at the picture on the right, it's kind of the original industrial park. That's probably got 50% capacity. And then the left side is the airport side, where there's really lots of opportunity on that side. One of the things that, I think you can go to the next slide, what's beneficial about this area is we have pad-ready sites, which I mentioned, so people can come in and build right now if they want to do that. We've got utilities to the site. We've got reasonable rates. We've got rail access, which a lot of ports don't have, that can get you to deep water ports. We've got foreign trade zone, which is basically says if you bring your product, if your building is within our foreign trade zone, it can either reduce, defer, or sometimes eliminate the tariff prices. And there are people that, if they say, this is what I do, the foreign trade zone group can tell them whether they'll save money or what's going to happen. So these are things that we know are important to users, so it's pretty beneficial here. This is just a project that we're working on. It's a Highway 3 frontage development. It's about 13 acres. We didn't really have frontage view property building, so I thought this might be a good idea to start the development. So you can go to the next slide. So this is the rendition of what we're trying to do. Once again, we work on the infrastructure, typically not the buildings, but we went ahead and that green building, we went ahead and started that one, and we had that built. I think it's on the next slide. Yeah, so that was the building that needed to get put up. It was about 6,000 square feet. And before we had it done, we had a user, you can go to the next slide, it was Defiant, or Allied Boats, which is a subsidiary of Defiance Boats. And the timing was good because once COVID was done, you couldn't build boats fast enough anymore, and so there was a big demand. And so we've got these guys growing. We've got another company, if you go to the next slide, expanding. Inventec Marine Solutions, they are a spin-off from Safe Boats. The guy who started Safe Boats is now building boats more for the general consumer rather than the high-end military requirements. You can go to the next one. This is just an ad of the type of boats that they build. And so he's putting in a 70,000 square foot building, about 160 jobs. He's almost done with the site, so it's been good expansion. And then we recently bought a building, about 10,000 feet, concrete tilt-up. The user moved out. The owners didn't want to own it. They came to us. We came to an agreement. You can go to the next page. It just shows the inside of the building. It's a great building for manufacturing. It's got a crane in there and all kinds of things. But what it doesn't have is sprinklers, and now that times have changed, and we're putting all the things that need to get in there, and then we'll put it out for lease. And we've got several people already interested. So there's definitely truth to the fact that there's a demand out there. And then I didn't want to talk about Circus of the Northwest. This has been an interesting topic since I've come here. It's been up and down on what they're doing. So in a nutshell, it's about a 200-acre premier sporting event center is what it's called. It's supported by the Seattle Sports Commission. That racetrack is about 2.5-mile road race. The way they make money is people own memberships, like you own a golf membership, you own a membership, and you have a nice car and you want to race it on there, you get to do those kind of things. They're going to have maybe a half a dozen racing events that'll do it, but then they expanded it, and if you look at the next page, it's really more than a racetrack and how the commissioners are looking at this, but it has the community event center. It has a, you can't see that from here, but that's where I usually read on. Outdoor amphitheater. It's got about a 20,000 seat outdoor amphitheater. They're building a STEM technology center, and just a lot of things, a performing arts center, things that they want. Racing isn't for everybody, and they wanted this to be for the community. So there's lots of things that they're putting in there besides this. And you go to the next page, I think it's some more. So here's just a picture of their autominiums. They're going to sell their like garages for their race cars, and then above that is the suite so they can watch the racing that goes on. And the next one is their amphitheater rendition of what they're going to do there, and they have a nationally known event company that would bring these types of venues to the area. The STEM Center, we've got a company called UTI who's very interested. I don't know if you're familiar with them. I know they have a place out of Arizona. These guys do training mostly for high-end automotive, and it's known for, these kids go to this training, and before they're out, they already have a job from a major automotive company. And I did this presentation in Belfair, and one of the women said her son went through that program in Arizona, and he got to pick where he wanted to live and what he wanted to do. So I think it's really got good potential. And then phase 2 would include hotel development, so that'll be a ways out. Then finally, just talk about some of the companies that we've got there. Of course, Safe Boats, they design and build extremely durable vessels that used by the military, law enforcement, fire professionals, border patrol, drug enforcement. They sell to over 50 different countries. The smaller boats are really doing well, so that means we're here in Port Orchard, we're doing well. They're like 20-foot jet skis is what I call them. They're fast, and if you ever ride one, you're actually strapped in to go. And then Electric Boats is, they design the construction and support of submarines for Bangor, part of General Dynamics. International Marine and Industrial Applicators, they do marine surface prepping and painting contractor. They employ about 150 people here. Triton Marine Construction, they do engineering and marine construction. They have about 150 people. And Airlift Northwest, of course, they provide flight transport for patients needing intensive medical care. It's the first one that we've had on over here on the Kitsap Peninsula. And then WRG Fire Training, their fire and safety training facility of Armed Forces and Washington State Ferry Systems. They basically light those things up and then put them out. And there's one more picture of it, which is kind of interesting. This is a picture of a submarine. That thing is half filled with water, and then they light the fire on top of that. So these guys go in and get training on how to put those out. Then just finally, just a summary of, why Port of Bremerton. We have land available. We got pad-ready sites. Olympic College is great at job skills training. They will sit at the table and help put training programs together. Foreign trade zone, transportation, all those things we talked about. And then the quality of life, which is an easy sell. What's in the hopper? We're continuing to extend Airport Way, the master plan, which includes the airport feasibility. Sewer expansion's a big one. We haven't got an answer to that yet. Lots of different ways to do it, but none of them are ideal. We're working with the city of Bremerton to see if they want to incorporate this because they have residents out there that they need to service as well. Of course, working with Mason County and with the city as well. With the Navy and with the plans that they've got through their SIOP program and their expansion. There's lots of things happening. We're trying to get prepared for that. And then really focusing on public-private investment has becoming more and more of an opportunity than it used to be. It used to be not interested. It was about when Amazon came in and people came and they paid attention and they like what we're seeing. So that's about it. Lots going on. I got lots of questions, and I got James here. And might as well use them while you've got him here. If you guys have any questions or not.
Great presentation, Jim. A lot of information. Is that a question, Councilmember Diener? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. That was very informative. My first question is easy. How many people work for the port?
We've got about a little over 30. And about half of those are facilities people that do the marinas and then the airport, and then the most are either our directors. And so, and then we contract out for any engineering and things like that. We just don't have a consistency for that, so we usually contract
Right.
that kind of stuff out.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
My next question is, you talked about the breakwater replacement, but I don't know if I caught a schedule for that.
James, why don't you speak to that?
So the breakwater should have been completed by now. It's been a long permitting process with the Army Corps and the National Marine Fisheries. We were caught in the middle of a section where they were redefining their mitigation for endangered species. And much like many of the waterfront shoreline projects, it added about 18 months to the permitting process for the federal agencies. When we did get awarded the grant of $9.4 million from the Department of Transportation, they additionally wanted to retool all of the documents one more time and redo NEPA, which added another 9 months at minimum. And we're just coming out of that and finishing it. We're looking to have that bid go out before year end. We're looking for construction off-site to begin next spring, and then our fish window starts July 15th through February 15th. So the in-water work, the placement of pilings, and the anchors for the floating breakwater would occur during those fish window times, which is July to February. Off-site construction would occur the entirety of the year, and they would float those sections in. Now, the design was created so that it does occur outside the existing perimeter of the breakwater, which allows the new construction to go in without impacting the port operations or the marina at all. When complete, we will remove the interior, the existing breakwater, and what it results in is another 14 feet of fairway, which reduces many of those night white knuckle experiences when you're passing boat to boat in a very narrow constricted space. So it's a safety improvement, plus it helps with the construction so that marina operations are essentially unimpacted by this construction. It's looking to be a 2-year construction window, and we should have it wrapped up by the beginning of 2028.
Are you looking to replace any of the finger piers on the interior of that?
Yes, but that's the next project, and
Okay.
we are working on funding and design at this point. This is a big lift for the port. Since the building of the Bremerton Marina in 2008, it's the biggest overwater structure and project that we've had. So it's significant for the port to be able to ensure that we have all the financial support for that, plus the staffing to be able to manage a major capital project like that.
Okay. So my last is just a comment. So as a user of the port, until I sold my boat recently, but also as a person whose family walks on the marina, the breakwater, you can definitely tell just by walking down there that it's on its last legs, well past its last legs. And I think it might be helpful to people that are using the marina and are walking on the docks if you had a site plan on those glass walls by the entrance that showed people just what was coming, so that they don't think this is just business as usual for the port.
Right. You know, I've seen some great billboards about 4x8 that show a new community center and library. That has been great to see. The next projects that are coming down the line, that's a process we can take on as well to make sure that it's well advertised.
Yeah. And finally, I'm just impressed by the amount of business that you have discussed tonight for our region. It's very amazing.
There's a lot going on in the port. We're a major job creator and for the county, and we're continuing to grow. As Jim said, there's so much going on that people don't even know about.
Thank you.
Mayor Fenton?
Oh, yeah, excellent presentation. And I want to add that you guys, the marina has worked so well with the farmer's market. And we're going to miss you, James, the farmer's market is. But yeah, it's just been a wonderful partnership. And I know it will still continue too. And the other thing is, yeah, the air show, amazing. Our Port Orchard Rotary was down there for 2 days and very impressive. Looking forward to be down there again for the air show.
Did I mention where James was going? I said he was leaving. Port of Paulsbo, so he won't be far away. So.
Good.
Congrats.
Just a boat right away.
Councilmember Morrissey?
Yeah. Thank you, Jim, for a wonderful presentation. You know, the things that you and the commissioners have done over the last 10 years are no short of amazing. But I just also want to say what a breath of fresh air it is to find a government entity that finds a way to yes, right? You guys get creative and find a way to make things work, and that's refreshing in today's age. So many kudos to you and the entire team over there for doing that. And a special thanks to James. You will be missed. I know that the port will feel it way more than us here at the city, but this community will miss you. But we also know we gained an ally up north, and just because you won't be here every day doesn't mean we won't see you. And then my last little bit is maybe a question is, has the port considered, with all that land out there, or has anybody looked at data centers in this area? We don't have any really on this side of the water, and I know that they've been boons to other communities as well. So just 2 cents.
Yeah, so we'd always be interested in things like that. There's really not much of an interest, especially on this side of the mountains, in power, the cost of power. You can get it at such a fraction of the cost, and they're just building them continually. We were just over at Port of Chelan and Douglas County, and you would not believe the centers that are going up there. Yeah.
Councilmember Chang?
Thank you for the presentation. You have beautiful photos. Are they natural or were they enhanced by AI?
You know, I'd have to ask. I think our marketing person probably edits them a little bit, but
Okay. They're very
we usually
nice.
hire a photographer.
They could
and-
be postcards.
Yeah.
I like your expanded breakwater. Will that be affecting the foot ferry route?
It shouldn't.
No, we've worked very close with Kitsap Transit to ensure it doesn't impact the route at all. They do store ferries there occasionally on the East Breakwater, and there may be a phase where they will be shifting to the Bremerton Breakwater for the overnight storage. We already have those agreements in place and are ready for that to occur when we start construction. Thank you. Sure.
Or Warden?
Yeah, Jim, thank you so much for the presentation. I've definitely, over the last few years, been really interested in watching how you guys grow. I've been out in Industrial Park for my day job the last 21 plus years, and watching it grow out there and all the different businesses come out there, and one comes vacant, fills up in a minute, you know? And so thanks for bringing all the employment out there and everything, because it's made a huge difference on our community. James, you will definitely be missed, but congratulations on your next adventure. So,
You know, when I first came out and toured the area before I took the job, the one thing that Port Orchard, I came in here and I just thought, this place has so much opportunity. I came from places where I've seen small towns grow, and you just see it. And I drove through the port, and I felt the same way.
Yeah.
You know, fortunately, I spent 20 years in private sector, so I came from that background. I was like, what's it going to take to get to yes? And what's nice is ports, we have a little more elbow room than most government entities, and so we have that ability to do that. And it's like, it's the perfect balance for me for private public sector. you know, you're doing things good for the community. Profit is not my 100% motivation anymore. It's jobs, and so it's really kind of fun to
Yeah,
do.
we have really good bones.
Yeah.
Like, we have really good bones here. We just need to build off of that. When are you guys, right, the buildings you tore down right over here? What's the goal for that area right
So
there?
you're talking about the Performing Arts
Yeah,
Center?
yes, yes.
So
Thank
until
you.
we get the testing done and
Okay.
do the soil testing, that's what we'll do. Lay down yard until we can get going. And we really, you know, we're seeing what's happening on the left of us with the old Tweetins, and we think that's really, you know, that might be of interest. We see what's going on the other side with the conference center, and it's like, you know, maybe parking is the answer. I don't know, you know, we really have to kind of see how that plays out.
So you might resell it?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, probably, we typically like to lease it and
Lease
have
the land.
control, because then we have a little bit of control over what they do there.
Sure.
Sometimes you don't, you know, depending on the project, they don't want to lease, they want to own, and
Yeah.
if we think the project's worth doing, then we would do it, yeah.
Yep, thank you.
Councilor Trenary?
Yeah, Jim, thanks for the presentation and everything you are doing and will continue to do for us here. James, thank you for what you have done and will continue to do for the Port of Paulsbo. You've been a pleasure to work with, and I wish you good luck.
Likewise, thank you.
Councilor Diener?
So there was a question I forgot to ask. Is there a point at which you trip a second boat ramp down there and look at additional parking for that? It can get pretty busy, particularly during certain,
Yeah, any thoughts on
Season.
that, James?
Well, if you recall, we remodeled that in conjunction with the city. I think that was around 2011, and that was a big part of serving as, that's the last production part of the line for Safe Boats. And that, they launch every vessel that they build there, they train here, and then they test here. And that is, we are part of their production line. And currently, they've identified, it's the last free boat launch in all of Kitsap County. Every one of them you have to pay for. And we've tried to maintain that because we have a lease, it's in the city right away, and that's a public presence. It's something that we get state grants to do. A secondary ramp, we do have Manchester nearby, which is a very busy ramp. Ramps seem very busy during the height of summer and fishing season, but very quiet the rest of the year. And so we haven't had nearly year-round demand that you would see on a typical Sunday afternoon in August. And it hasn't quite been there yet.
okay.
You know, we still have the 2 ramps in Bremerton there nearby, and they're not used to their capacity either. So with more, I think if you get one more boat builder, that might justify it.
Okay. Good information, thank you.
Sure.
I thought of one more thing while listening to others. You had a great presentation on the Marina Square project. If there was ever an opportunity on this side of the water to do something like that, I think there'd be some appetite, in particular around parking. So always reach out because I think you have friends here at the city.
Yeah, well, thanks. That's certainly in the back of our mind with the piece of property that we're working on now and the one adjacent to it, so.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, we will, at this point, we don't have a public hearing. We're going to be going into an executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-110, related to a real estate matter. And I believe we'll start with 15 minutes, and we'll go from there.
Is that, Rob, is that county related or?
No,
Okay.
you're-
Recording stopped.
yeah.